welcome to this online edition of OU Nightly. I'm Hernandez coming to you from Oklahoma City. Now, while COVID-19 forces all of us off campus and out of our newsrooms, we are dedicated to bringing you this newscast. We begin tonight with a growing death toll from COVID-19 in Oklahoma. Governor Kevin Stitt updated the number of deaths at a press conference this afternoon.
In the last 24 hours, we have lost 16 Oklahomans to COVID-19. And as a father, a brother, a son, this is devastating news. My heart breaks for their families. 13 of the 16 deaths were 65 or older, but we all have to take this very, very seriously. Stay home if you can. Limit your trips to essential businesses and only send one person out to do your grocery shopping when possible.
At today's press conference, the governor also noted that there are now 60 mobile COVID-19 testing sites across the state, and he updated the amount of personal protective equipment for hospital staff and first responders, saying that there's no shortage in Oklahoma at this time. Tonight, we know that a West Norman nursing home, Grace Living Center, continues to see more cases develop. Right now, there are 58 patients who have tested positive for COVID-19, along with 6 staff members. 8 residents have died from the virus. The number of coronavirus cases continues to rise in the state of Oklahoma. The Oklahoma State Department of Health reports 1,427 cases in the state. Looking down south, Texans are building a medical shelter at NRG Park in Houston, as they report 8,262 cases as of today. The Lone Star State continues to ask Texans to stay home as much as possible, as these next few weeks are crucial. And approximately 100 American airline flight attendants, along with 3 TSA agents at Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, have tested positive for COVID-19. As far as national cases, the CDC reports 374,000 cases in the United States. The death toll now has risen to 12,000. The CDC continues to urge people to stay home, and if you need to leave the house, wear a mask. A deadly day in New York as the number of deaths grows.
The bad news is 5,489 New Yorkers have lost their lives to this virus. That is up from 4,758. That is the largest single day increase. And we talk about numbers, but that's 731 people who we lost. Behind every one of those numbers is an individual, is a family.
Governor Cuomo says there is some good news in New York. The number of new COVID-19 cases is starting to trend down. And internationally, 1 million cases have been reported. The total number of deaths have now jumped to 68,000. Senate Democrats unveiled a plan to boost the pay of essential workers like healthcare providers who are still doing their jobs during COVID-19.
First, a premium pay increase for essential workers up to $25,000 from the start of the public health emergency until the end of the year. Second, an essential worker recruitment incentive of $15,000 to attract and keep the medical workforce needed to fight the pandemic.
Lawmakers are pushing for this proposal to be included in the Phase 4 coronavirus relief bill. Congress will negotiate when they return the week of April 20th. And despite significant health risks, Wisconsin presidential primary went on as planned today. Voters stood in long lines, many of them wearing masks to cast their ballots. A lawsuit to postpone today's vote made it all the way to the Supreme Court, where it was decided to keep today's date. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg wrote, the dissent saying in part, quote, the court's suggestion that the current situation is not substantially different from an ordinary election boggles the mind.
I'm Megan Gold reporting from Edmond, Oklahoma tonight. A beautiful spring day here in Oklahoma. Yesterday, a lot of cloud cover, did not see much of the sun, but today the sun is out and temperatures are very warm. We're sitting in the 80s statewide right now. Those winds out of the south-southwest at 10 to 15 miles an hour, and that's not helping our allergy levels. Tree pollen at a very high level right now with mold at a medium level. So maybe you're headed outside to practice some social distancing and get some fresh air. Be sure to keep that in mind. And here to give us a look at what we can expect for the rest of the week is Taylor Stephenson. Taylor?
Thanks, Megan. Conditions in Oklahoma are a little bit more ideal than here in my hometown of Atlanta, Georgia. Right now it's starting to sprinkle on me a little bit, but conditions today in Oklahoma, as Megan said, were absolutely beautiful. 80s and some low 90s out there across the state, and that's going to continue into tomorrow. But we do have a change that is coming. Looking at our winds, we have those winds coming from the south, but that is going to change. If you see in that northwestern corner of our map, those winds are starting to come out of the north. That means we're going to have some cooler air coming to our state going into this weekend. We also have a hazardous weather outlook for this weekend that is going to be associated with those storms that are going to come into play towards Friday and Saturday. They will be on the low end of the severe scale though. Looking at the rest of the week, it's looking beautiful up until the weekend. We do have a chance for some rain and some thunderstorms on Saturday. Back to you.
Thank you, Taylor. With coronavirus changing the way people are living, unemployment rates are rising. As you can see, huge lines are forming in Hialeah, Florida, where people are waiting to try and get unemployment applications.
I'm Audrey Goodson, coming to you from Duncan, Oklahoma, to give you the latest news in the sports world. While COVID-19 has made things hard for athletes and fans, I do have some good news. Former OU running back and Washington Redskin Adrian Peterson has made the NFL's All-Decade 2010 team. The former Sooner has had quite the decade, rushing for over 10,000 yards with 61 rushing TDs. Not only that, but rushed 1,000 yards during 4 of his seasons and over 2,000 in a single season. I'm pretty excited about this. AD was one of my favorite players to watch growing up as a Sooner fan. And now switching to the MLB, the league has plans to start playing as early as May. You may be asking, how is this possible? Well, the league is still working out details, but the plan is that all 30 teams would play games without fans in the Phoenix area. Players and coaches would live in isolation and only travel to and from the stadium. The CDC is supportive of Major League Baseball becoming the first league to return to sports, as long as the plan adheres to strict isolation. And speaking of baseball, let's take a look back at one of the great moments in MLB history from April 7th, 1977. On this day 43 years ago, the Toronto Blue Jays played their very first baseball game ever. Just before the Blue Jays stepped up to the plate for the very first time, a snowstorm rolled in. But the show must go on, and that it did when the Blue Jays defeated the White Sox 9-5. Well, that's it from me here in Duncan, Oklahoma, but make sure to keep washing your hands and staying inside. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, Audrey. We leave you tonight on a lighter note. In the midst of the coronavirus crisis, police in Passaic, New Jersey offered a token of appreciation to staff at St. Mary's General Hospital. The police drove in squad cars with their lights and sirens on and presented hospital staff with bouquets of flowers. The policemen called it Operation Spread Some Love. Thank you for watching this online edition of OU Nightly, brought to you by our teams working remotely from Oklahoma, Texas, Georgia, and North Carolina. Reporting from Oklahoma City, I'm Austin Hernandez. Good night.